أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه المنتجبين. Brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. عظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بمصاب أبا عبد الله الحسين. May Allah amplify your and our reward in the grieving for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Pitched upon the scorching desert, the tent of Hussein lay, encompassed round the Satan's hounds upon that black sad day. They numbered less than 80 strong, yet do women and children fight, while Yazid's thousands stood around awaiting the fiend's might. Driven away from the cooling stream, his children waiting for water, awaiting with patience extremely sublime, like sheep for the butcher's slaughter. Oh, how valiantly fought that gallant few against Yazid's wild murderers, fought with a courage unequaled in time, fought with a fierceness that was surely divine. The earth quaked and trembled as noon drew near, but still the survivors knew no fear. But fewer grew that courageous band. For Islam, God, and Hussein they stand. At last, all were dead, the devil had won. Blood red sank down the merciless sun. Trampled and torn lay the gallant Hussein. But for Islam, God, and the faithful, they were never slain. Brother Ali al-Hindawi will start us off with recitation of the Quran. Let us welcome him with salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
صل على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. هل أتى على الإنسان حين من الدهر لم يكن شيئا مذكورا. إنا خلقنا الإنسان من نطفة أمشاج نبتليه فجعلناه سميعا بصيرا. إنا هديناه السبيل السبيل إنا هديناه السبيل إما شاكرا وإما كفورا إنا أعتدنا للكافرين سلاسل وأغلالا وسعيرا إن الأبرار يشربون من كأس كان مزاجها كافورا إن الأبرار يشربون من كأس كان مزاجها كافورا عينا يشرب بها عباد الله يفجرونها تفجيرا يوفون بالنذر يوفون بالنذر يوفون بالنذر ويخافون يوما كان شره مستطيرا ويطعمون الطعام على حبه مسكينا ويتيما وأسيرا ويطعمون الطعام على حبه مسكينا ويتيما وأسيرا إنما نطعمكم لوجه الله لا نريد منكم جزاء ولا شكورا إنا نخاف من ربنا إنما نطعمكم لوجه الله لا نريد منكم جزاء ولا شكورا إنا نخاف من ربنا إنا نخاف من ربنا إنا نخاف من ربنا يوما عبوسا قمطريرا فوقاهم الله شر ذلك اليوم ولقاهم نضرة وسرورا وجزاهم بما صبروا جنة وجزاهم بما صبروا جنة وحريرا متكئين فيها على الأرائك لا يرون فيها شمسا ولا زمهريرا ودانية عليهم ظلالها وذللت قطوفها تذليلا ويطاف عليهم بآنية من فضة وأكواب كانت قوارير من فضة قدروها تقديرا صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Thank you, Brother Ali, for that beautiful recitation. We're now going to be joined by Sister Fatima Al-Zubaydi for more recitation of the Holy Quran. Let us welcome her with a heartfelt salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عبس وتولى أن جاءه الأعمى وما يدريك لعله يزكى أو يذكر فتنفعه الذكرى. أما من استغنى فأنت له تصدى وما عليك ألا يزكى. وأما من جاءك يسعى وهو يخشى فأنت عنه تلهى. كلا إنها تذكرة فمن شاء ذكره في صحف مكرمة مرفوعة مطهرة بأيدي سفرة كرام بررة. قتل الإنسان ما أكفره من أي شيء خلقه من نطفة خلقه فقدره ثم السبيل يسره ثم أماته فأقبره ثم إذا شاء أنشره. كلا لما يقض ما أمره فلينظر الإنسان إلى طعامه أنا صببنا الماء صبا ثم شققنا الأرض شقا فأنبتنا فيها حبا وعنبا وقضبا وزيتونا ونخلا وحدائق غلبا وفاكهة وأبا متاعا لكم ولأنعامكم. فإذا جاءت الصاخة يوم يفر المرء من أخيه وأمه وأبيه وصاحبته وبنيه لكل امرئ منهم يومئذ شأن يغنيه. وجوه يومئذ مسفرة ضاحكة مستبشرة ووجوه يومئذ عليها غبرة ترهقها قترة أولئك هم الكفرة الفجرة. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على
أحسنتي Sister Fatima. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Later on in our program, Brother Hashim Fakhruddin will talk to us about Imam Hassan alayhi salam. And in the Battle of Karbala, Imam Hassan was represented by his son, Qasim. Qasim ibn al-Hassan alayhi salam was said to be around 13 or 14 years old around the time of the Battle of Karbala. And during the day of Ashura, because of his tender age and because of the fact that he was his brother's son, Imam Hussein was reluctant to give him permission to join the battle. His mother also was quite upset by the whole ordeal. She had a letter from Imam Hassan alayhi salam and she handed it to Qasim. Qasim opened the letter and read it. The letter said, "My son Qasim, a day will come when my brother Hussein alayhi salam will be facing an enemy's army of tens of thousands. That will be the day when Islam will need to be saved by sacrifice. You must represent me on that day." Qasim ran to his uncle. In eagerness, And when Imam Hussein saw the letter, he said, "Oh, my brother's son, how can I stop you from doing what your father wanted you to do? In the name of Allah, go. May Allah be with you." We are now going to be joined by Brother Hussein al-Asadi for more recollections of what happened on the day of Ashura. Let us welcome him with salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
اخوان بس رجاء تقدموا للامام، رحم الله من ذكر القائمه وقام. يا قائم على محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
صلى الله عليك يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، صلى الله عليك يا ابن رسول الله، غريب يا مظلوم كربلاء، يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة، ما خاب من تمسك بكم وأمن من لجأ إليكم، فزتم ويا ليتنا يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي، فنفوز فوزا عظيما. يا آل سفيان كفى يا أمة الطغيان، هذا شبيه المصطفى يا أمة الطغيان، هذا محمد. صلى على محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
هذا محمد والله يشهد، الله يشهد هذا محمد. وكأني بعلي الأكبر يوم الطفوف عندما ذهب لملاقاة القوم وهو ينادي: أنا علي بن الحسين بن علي، نحن وبيت الله أولى بالنبي، نحن وبيت الله أولى بالنبي، والله لا يحكم فينا ابن الدعي، أطعنكم بالرمح حتى ينثني، أضربكم بالسيف حتى يلتوي، ضرب غلام هاشمي علوي، ضرب غلام هاشمي علوي. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قال العلي الأعلى في محكم كتابه: وقضى ربك ألا تعبدوا إلا إياه وبالوالدين إحسانا، أما يبلغ عندك الكبر أحدهما أو كلاهما فلا تقل لهما أف ولا تنهرهما وقل لهما قولا كريما واخفض لهما جناح الذل من الرحمة وقل رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. صدق الله العلي العظيم. طاعة الوالدين كما قرأنا في الآية جاءت بعد قضاء الله وقدره بأن لا نعبد إلا إياه. فالآية بدأت وقضى ربك ألا تعبد إلا الله. والأمر الثاني اللي جاء بعد عبادة الله وبالوالدين إحسان. فمنزلة عظيمة طاعة الوالدين ورضاهما من رضا الله عز وجل. فإذا كان الإنسان خصوصا الشباب احنا طاعة والدينا واجبة مفترضة علينا في كتاب الله، فهذا الفرض الواجب علينا إذا ما أدينا الدين يكون ناقص. وقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم عندما جاء شخص وسأله قال يا رسول الله من أحق الناس بحسن صحابتي؟ قال أمك. قال ثم من؟ قال أمك. قال ثم من؟ قال أمك. قال ثم من؟ 4 مرات يكرر قال أمك. قال ثم من؟ قال أباك. فطاعة الوالدين أمر واجب على الإنسان المسلم. وفي آية أخرى في القرآن يقول الله عز وجل بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإن جاهداك على أن تشرك بما ليس لك به علم فلا تطعهما وصاحبهما في الدنيا معروفا. يعني حتى لو هم كانوا يجاهدونك إنه على الشرك بالله والعياذ بالله أو على أي شيء هو في واقع الأمر معصية لله، لا تطعهما على معصية الله ولكن صاحبهما في الدنيا معروفة. هذا المعروف اللي أدوه إلك لما كنت التصغير. أبو الأسود الدؤلي من أصحاب أمير المؤمنين عليه السلام جمع أولاده وأراد أن يوصيهم فقال لهم لقد أحسنت إليكم صغارا وكبارا وقبل أن تولدوا. فأولاده نظروا إليه قالوا يا أبا أحسنت إلينا صغارا فعلت ذلك ربيتنا، وأحسنت إلينا كبارا فعلتها، لكن أحسنت إلينا قبل أن نولد كيف فعلت ذلك؟ قال اخترت لكم أما صالحة. فالصلاح يكون من هذا البيت اللي أنت تنشأ به. وإذا القرآن يقول وإن جاهداك على أن تشرك بما ليس لك به علم فلا تطعهما وصاحبهما في الدنيا معروفا. ما أحب أطيع عليكم أنا اليوم نصيحة صغيرة هيك بيناتنا احنا اخوان قاعدين ان شاء الله في مجلس ابا عبد الله الحسين. ايش ما تسوي من اعمال تريد بها قربة الى الله تعالى قل واجعل ثواب هذا العمل الى والدي. الرسول يقول اذا مات ابن ادم انقطع عمله الا من 3 اعمال اذا متت انت كانسان ما تنقطع منها. صدقة جارية تساعد في خلينا نقول مثلا بناء مسجد، تخلي لك فد شيء ينتفع به الناس، صدقة لوجه الله، هذا تجيك حسنات تظل تجيك عليه حسنات. وعلم نافع، علم تنفع به البشرية. ما خصص الرسول الأكرم ما قال بس علم تنفع به المسلمين، لا ينفع البشرية. وعلم نافع وولد صالح يدعو له. فهذه الأشياء اللي رسول الله والإسلام والله جاي يعلمنا عليها هي طاعة الوالدين، الإحسان إليهم. وخير مثال على ذلك أهل بيت رسول الله وخير مثال على ذلك هم أهل بيت رسول الله. ونذكر مثالا واحدا هو علي الأكبر ابن الحسين، عندما رأى الإمام الحسين في يوم عاشوراء يبكي قال: أبا لم تبكي؟ قال: أبكي على هؤلاء القوم يدخلون النار بسببي. قال: أبي ألسنا على الحق؟ قال: بلى والله نحن على الحق. قال: إذن لا يهمني إن وقع علينا الموت أو وقعنا عليه ما دمنا على الحق. هاي التربية الصالحة وهذا الولد الصالح اللي ينصر أبوه في كل مكان. هذا مصداق للذكر. لما نبي الله إبراهيم رأى في منامه أنه يذبح ولده فقال: يا أبا افعل ما تؤمر. هذا مصداق، هذا طاعة تامة لله وللوالدين. لكن في يوم عاشوراء استشهد كل أصحاب الحسين عليه السلام، ولم يبقى معه إلا نفر قليل من آل بيته، هم بنو هاشم إخوته وأولاد عمه. وكان أول من استشهد من آل بني هاشم هو علي الأكبر ابن الحسين، فطلب الإذن من أبيه وأراد أن يذهب إلى المعركة. سكينة بنت الحسين تنقل الرواية تقول: أبي الحسين احتضر 3 مرات في يوم عاشوراء، 3 مرات كادت روحه الطاهرة أن تزهق تخرج. صعب عليه كان يتنفس أبي الحسين. في أول موضع لما طلب منه علي الأكبر أن يذهب إلى ساحة الميدان وبراز القوم، كان الأمر جدا صعب عليه. هنا أمه توصيه، شوف شو تقول له: خلي بالك يمه، تقول له: يمه يا ابني 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 يا دارس فنون الحرب يا فراس يا فراس، يا الهمتك همة عمك عباس، يا شيلة راس، يا المهبط بيك الراس، يا صرخة روح المحتارة، سل السيف وشن الغار، يا صرخة روحي المحتارة، سل السيف وشن الغار، يا صقر بصدر المناية يصيد، يا صنديد منه يجابه الصنديد، وش ما زادت جيوش القوم خلها تزيد، وخل تسمع صوتك خليها دلها على الموت ووديها عاد عاد عاد، غصن قلبي عليكم ذبل عاد عاد عاد، على ابن انخطف وجه حسين عاد. رفعت هنا ايديها بالدعاء وقالت: هي من رديت يوسف لعد عاد عاد، اريد ترد علي سالم علي، اريد ترد علي سالم وتقول الرواية أن علي الأكبر صال في الميدان ونكس الشجعان، ولكنه رجع إلى مخيم الحسين عليه السلام وهو يقول: أبا العطش أضرني ثقل الحديد. كان يلبس درع من حديد، والدرع ثقيلة، درع المعركة ثقيل، ضرب السيوف والرماح. وشوف هالبركة الدعاء، بركة دعاء الأم أرجعه إليها سالما غانما. فما لبث إلا ساعة. قال الحسين: بني علي، ما هي إلا ساعة وتشرب شربة لا تظمأ بعدها أبدا. رجع الأكبر وبارز وقاتل قتال الشجعان، ثم نادى: عليك السلام مني أبا عبد الله. ذهب الإمام الحسين ليحمل، لم يستطع على حمله، كانت رجلاه تخطان الأرض. أحضره إلى الخيمة، جاب ومدد ما بين خوته، إجاب ومدد ما بين خوته، وبس ما سمعني النسوان صوته، وبس ما سمعني النسوان صوته. هرعنا من الخيمة، أمه عمته زينب تنظر إليه مقطعا إربا إربا. نادت: ولدي 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 علي، هنيئا لك الشهادة يا بني، لكن علما لمن تركتني، من تركتني في هذه الدنيا بعدك. جاورت أعدائي وجاور ربه، شتان بين جواره وجواري. يا الله إلهي، بغربة الحسين وبعطش الحسين وبشهداء الطف، إلهي لا تخرجنا من هذه الدنيا حتى ترضى عنا. اللهم اقضي حوائجنا، عجل فرج صاحب الزمان. وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات نهدي جميعا ثواب سورة الفاتحة تسبقها الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Ahsant, Brother Hussein, for that beautiful reminder. Imam Hassan alayhi salam says that the annihilation of people lies in three things: arrogance, greed, and envy. Arrogance causes destruction of the religion, and it is because of it that Satan was cursed. Greed is the enemy of one's soul, and envy is the guide to wickedness, and it is because of it that Qabil killed Habil. Imam Hassan is one of the most overlooked imams. His patience and wisdom is an untapped treasure. And we are hoping that today, with the help of Brother Hashim Fakhruddin, we will begin to undo this great injustice of overlooking this treasure that is Imam Hassan alayhi salam. Let us welcome Brother Hashim with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
الثانية غفر الله له.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
الثالثة على حب إمام الحسن بأعلى أصواتكم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين. أما بعد، يقول الله تعالى في محكم كتابه الحكيم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فمن أظلم ممن كذب على الله وكذب بالصدق إذ جاءه أليس في جهنم مثوى للكافرين والذي جاء بالصدق وصدق به أولئك هم المتقين. Brothers and sisters, respected elders, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Culturally, tonight is a night that is dedicated to Al-Qasim alayhi salam, and I have taken this opportunity to talk about his father, Imam Al-Hassan alayhi salam, and really try to shed some light on his life. Imam Al-Hassan is truly an Imam that we don't give credit to for his wisdom, for his bravery, for his sacrifices, and even for his generosity. I would say, just like the sister did, that he's probably the most misunderstood of our Imams. Until today, there are some people, even from within the Shia, that question his decision making, especially when it comes to the treaty that he had with Muawiyah, la'natullah alayh. A lot of people ask, why? Why would the Imam have a treaty with Muawiyah? You know, he's a tyrant, he's an oppressor. Why didn't he stand up like his younger brother did against Yazid? So inshallah, I'm limited with my time, but I'll try to shed some light on this. Most of the narrations that I'm going to be talking about today are from the books of our brothers from other sects. Now, why would I do this? You may ask, why not just bring narrations from our own books? Well, for two reasons. One, for example, when we go and we want to tell an outsider about Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, we don't go and tell him Imam Ali said this about Imam al-Hussein. He can turn around and say, you're being biased. You know, this is his father, obviously he's going to say good things about his son. We go and we tell him Gandhi said this about Imam al-Hussein, Charles Dickens said this about Imam al-Hussein. This way the person can think, he can put it into perspective because he thinks highly of Gandhi. I don't need Gandhi or Charles Dickens to give quotes about Imam al-Hussein for me to believe in him, but it's a good starting point to start a conversation or a dialogue with an outsider. So that's the first reason. The second reason, this is going to come off harsh, but this isn't really my intention necessarily. You don't need to go through good to get to haqq, to get to the truth. You don't need to go through good to get to the truth. You can go through bad and understand where the truth lies. I'll give an example from Karbala. Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad sends a letter to Umar ibn Sa'ad, and he says, when you kill Hussein, I want you to trample on his body, and I want you to cut it into pieces. He doesn't stop there, he goes further than this. He says, I know he won't feel it because he's dead, but it'll satisfy me. When you see this animosity, you don't need to go study the life of Imam Hussein to see where the haqq lies. It's very clear where the haqq lies. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Now the topic that I'm going to talk about, the treaty between Imam Hassan and Muawiyah, it has a lot of history. And I have very limited time, so I'll try to really cut to the chase and be very brief about it. So, Imam Ali alayhi salam was the Khalifa of the time, and he was in Kufa. He gets killed in the masjid of Kufa among his own people. While he's praying, he gets struck down and killed. So most of the people of Kufa come to Imam al-Hassan and give him allegiance. At the same time, Muawiyah is trying to build his empire. He has this lifelong dream of building an empire, of bringing the Khilafah to his family and make it go through his heirs. And he's been working on this. He's been pumping money into this, he's bribing people, he's promising them land, women, money, authority, and he's trying to bring them into his way. So from the start, Muawiyah wanted to get the allegiance of Imam al-Hassan, to build on this. Muawiyah controlled what is in modern world today, Lebanon, Syria, Jordan and Palestine. And he wanted to evolve, to push on more than that, to have the full power of the Caliphate. So let's look firstly at the position that Imam Hassan took towards Muawiyah before we get into the treaty and its details. So early on in the Khilafah of Imam al-Hassan in Kufa, Muawiyah sends a letter to Imam al-Hassan and he tells him, why don't you help us fight the Khawarij? The Khawarij, I would say, are the modern day ISIS. They have no leaders, they're just wild animals. They look like Muslims, they have the beard and they fast throughout the day and they pray during the night, but they have no idea of the morals of Islam. So Muawiyah sends a letter to Imam al-Hassan, why don't you come and help us fight against the Khawarij? Let's look at the response of the Imam, which makes his position very clear in regards to Muawiyah. He says, if I were to fight any of the Muslims, I would start with you, as it is more prudent to fight against a tyrant than it is to fight against disbelievers, because the effect of a tyrant to Islam is the same of an obscene or filthy person in a mosque. This makes his position very clear in regards to Muawiyah, because a lot of people say that Imam al-Hassan went and gave allegiance, that they worked together and they said, this is the best for the ummah, you can be the leader and I'll be under your command. This is wrong. Muawiyah sends a letter to Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam and he asks him to give him allegiance. Imam al-Hassan reads the letter and gets up and gives a sermon to the people. Now it's a long sermon and there's a lot of historical backgrounds to it, but I'll just mention the start of it and the end of it. Imam al-Hassan starts by thanking Allah and saying, by Allah, we have no doubt or remorse in fighting the people of Sham. And he goes on and talks to the people about the people of Sham and what he has suffered through and gone through. And he ends it by saying, what Muawiyah has invited us to, in it there is no joy, nor justice. If you are willing to accept death, he's telling the people of Kufa, then we will reply to him by unsheathing our swords. And if you want this life, we will accept. What did the people start shouting? Al-Baqiyya, Al-Baqiyya. We want to live, we want to stay, we don't want to go and fight. Things are good the way they are. We've had enough of fighting. The Imam wasn't convinced by this. What does Muawiyah start doing now? He's desperate. He's desperate for the caliphate. He starts pumping money into the Imam's companions. He starts buying them out one by one and they start giving Muawiyah allegiance. So Muawiyah sends another letter. This time he attaches the letters of the Imam's companions that have betrayed him to this letter to show the Imam, you have no one. No one's going to stand with you. You might as well just give me allegiance. So the Imam reads this, and this is also narrated in the book by Al-Majlisi. The Imam reads this, he gets very upset and he says, we are going to fight against the people of Sham and we are going to go to this particular place. We're going to stay there, we'll group up and we'll start moving towards Sham. He goes there and stays for 10 days and only 4,000 people come. Mind you, Muawiyah had 70,000 ready to go. The Imam was still going to push on. This did not bother him. So they start pushing on. One morning they wake up and Ubaydullah ibn Abbas, who is one of the leaders of Imam al-Hassan's army, he changes. He goes to the other side. Muawiyah pays him a big sum of money and he goes. And he spreads a rumor that Imam al-Hassan does not want to fight. He doesn't want to fight, he's just trying to put a show together. An uproar happens in the camp. People start getting confused. So much so that a group of the people attack Imam Hassan's tent and they stab him in his thigh with a poisoned dagger. That's how lowly these companions had gotten to. That's the point where the dunya blinds you. That's where it gets to. So at this stage is when the Imam had to start thinking, I have Muawiyah in front of me who wants to kill me, and my own companions want to come and stab me from the back. So the Imam decides to have a treaty with Muawiyah. He says, we will sign this treaty, and through this treaty we will expose him, similar to what his grandfather did at Hudaybiyah. Surah Al-Fath, when we read the first verse, what does it say? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Inna fatahna laka fathan mubina. Verily we granted thee a manifest victory. This was not about any battles. This was about a peace treaty that the Prophet had with the Meccans, the Mushrikeen, the disbelievers of Meccans. So this is an extension of that treaty. Now through this treaty the Imam wanted to expose Muawiyah and his true colours, and subhanallah it didn't take long. They were sending letters to each other and the Imam sent him the terms that he wanted, and Muawiyah blindly accepted all of them in the letters, and they decided to meet in Kufa and make this public. On the way to Kufa, just outside Kufa, there was a mosque and Muawiyah stopped there. It was a Friday, so he prayed the Friday prayer. And around the Kufa is where all the Shia are, the Shia of the time. So after the Friday prayer, Muawiyah gives a sermon. SubhanAllah, look at this, look how low he had gotten. He starts the sermon by saying, by Allah, I did not fight and kill you for you to pray, nor fast, nor to give zakat. But I fought you to rule over you, and Allah has granted me this and you hate it. I promised Hassan many a things and all of them are under my feet. I will grant him nothing. The most funny thing about this, the most interesting part is that the books that you read this hadith, they say radiyallahu anhu. Subhanallah. And sometimes we need to reflect on this as well. Sometimes we place people on, we place them in such a high position that even when they say something that deep down we know this isn't right, we defend them fully. Sometimes we need to reflect as well, brothers and sisters. Furthermore, how did Imam al-Hassan expose Muawiyah? Through the terms. And before I get to the terms, I just want to refer to Surah Al-Ma'idah, the first verse of Surah Al-Ma'idah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu ufu bil-uqud. O you who believe, fulfill the contracts. It's very simple. O you who believe, fulfill the contract. Now let's see Muawiyah. I'm just going to go through some of the terms of this treaty. He says, you must follow the sunnah of my grandfather. Now Muawiyah is very well known. He prayed Friday prayer. What's Friday prayer called in Arabic? Someone tell me. Salatul Jum'ah. What does Jum'ah mean? Friday. Friday prayer. It's very simple. He prayed it on a Wednesday. Subhanallah. The sermons, you're meant to give them while standing. He used to sit and give the sermons. So that's the first term. He says you can't call yourself Amir al-Mu'mineen. You can't call yourself the ruler of the Mu'mineen. Call yourself ruler. It didn't stop him. He used to call himself Amir al-Mu'mineen all the time. Now this one really hurts, brothers and sisters. He says you must stop the cursing of my father, Ali ibn Abi Talib. For 60 years, brothers and sisters, for 60 years, every Friday prayer started with may Allah curse Ali ibn Abi Talib. For 60 years. Radiallahu anhu, right? Another term, you will stop killing of the Shia. He killed Hujr ibn al-Adi al-Kindi, Amr ibn Hamaq al-Khuza'i, Rushayd al-Hajari, and more and more and more. And the last one, which is the most important of all the terms, which relates to Karbala, he says, Imam Hassan tells Muawiyah, when you die, the Khilafat comes to me, and if I'm not alive, then it gets passed on to my younger brother Hussein. Did Muawiyah stick to this? After a few years of the treaty, Muawiyah wanted to start preparing for his son Yazid to come take the caliphate. And he started killing people that could challenge this one by one. He killed Abdul Rahman ibn Abi Bakr, if I'm not mistaken, or ibn Umar, I'm not sure, and Abdul Rahman ibn Khalid ibn al-Walid. And he needed to kill Imam al-Hassan as well. What does he do? He tells Imam al-Hassan's wife Ju'da, he tells her, if you poison Imam al-Hassan, I will let you marry my son Yazid, and he's going to be the Khalifa. You'll be the wife of the Khalifa. So she does that. She poisons the Imam and she kills him. And she comes to Muawiyah and she tells him, well, I've done what you asked for. Let me marry your son. Muawiyah turns around to her and says, you just killed the grandson of the Prophet. You expect me to let you marry my son? We have a saying in Arabic, and in Iraq we use it a lot. We say, La dunya wa la akhirah. She didn't get, not this world, she didn't get anything, and in the hereafter she's not going to get anything either. There is so much that I can say about Imam al-Hassan and his position and his wisdom. From the ayat of the Quran, we can talk about Mubahala, ayat al-Tadkhir, قُلْ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى. Qari Ali al-Hindawi, he read a verse as well, وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ مِسْكِينًا وَيَتِيمًا. There is so many verses, brothers and sisters, and so many narrations from books of our brothers and our books. But there's just one narration that I want to focus on. Just the one. Now, we know very well that our Prophet, he does not say anything of his own accord, or he does not say anything of his own desires. And we know this in Surah Al-Najm. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَالنَّجْمِ إِذَا هَوَى ما ضل صاحبكم وما غوى وما ينطق عن الهوى إن هو إلا وحي يوحى. By the stars and when they set. And what an oath it is by Allah. By the stars and when they set. From thousands of years ago until today, the stars are something amazing. By the stars and when they say, your companion has not gone astray, nor does he err. Nor does he speak out of caprice, out of his own desires. But it is revealed to him. So everything the Prophet ﷺ says is a revelation and is the words of Allah. We need to sort of ponder on this whenever we hear a narration from the Prophet. So what does the Prophet say about Imam al-Hassan and Imam al-Hussein? He says, Al-Hassan wal-Hussein imama qama aw qa'ada. Al-Hassan and Hussein are imams, be it they sit, Imam al-Hassan, or they stand, Imam al-Hussein. Now here's a point to reflect upon and just something to really bring to everyone's attention. How old was Imam al-Hassan when the Prophet said this? He was 4 years old. 4 years old. And Imam al-Hussein was 3 years old. And the Prophet is saying they are imams, be it they stand or they sit. Which Prophet is the Prophet that's mentioned the most in the Quran? It's Prophet Musa alayhi salam. Now let's see what Allah says about Prophet Musa in the Quran. In Surah Al-Qasas, ayah 14. وَلَمَّا بَلَغَ أَشُدَّهُ وَاسْتَوَى آتَيْنَاهُ حُكْمًا وَعِلْمًا. Once he reached full maturity and in perfection of his strength, we gave him judgment and knowledge. Imam al-Hassan was 4 years old. 4 years old, and the Prophet said this about him. It is no wonder and it's not a surprise that when we see Qasim alayhi salam go out on the plains of Karbala, he reminds the enemy of his father when he reads the beautiful lines of poetry. إن تنكروني فأنا نجل الحسن صبط النبي المصطفى والمؤتمن هذا حسين كالأسير المرتهن بين أناس لاصقوا صوب المزن. If you deny me and you don't know me, I am the son of Hassan, who is the grandson of the Prophet. And this is Hussein that you've taken like a hostage and captive. He is between people that know nothing of mercy. Brothers and sisters, I have taken a lot of your time and I apologize for that. But just before I finish, I want to reiterate one thing. The reason we always repeat the history of the Imams and the companions isn't for us to see the theatre in it. It is really for us to see the hardship that they went through and try to learn from these lessons and move forward, and to see that these companions, they went to all these extents. What extent do we go to for Islam? Are we the people that say, what can Islam do for me? Are we the people that look around, which marja lets me shave my beard fully, which one lets me put on makeup, which one lets me listen to music? Are we the people that says, what can I do for Islam? What can I give for Islam? How can I go out of my way for the sake of Islam? And when it comes to sacrificing, I tell you, no one comes close to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. On the plains of Karbala, he says, إن كان دين محمد لم يستقم إلا بقتلي يا سيوف خذيني. If the religion of Muhammad would not stand except by my killing, O swords, take me. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalam ala Muhammad wa ali baytihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Brother Hashim. We're going to now take a quick refreshments break. Please remain seated. The refreshments will come to you. We're going to recommence in about 5 minutes' time. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. It's Salah and then but you can get ready. You can get ready. She's only going to be 5 minutes. So you can set up if you like. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. الثاني على حب الزهراء.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
الثالث على حب الحسين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Ink forming letters and words forming tears that once unfolded from under the fingertips of my father. I need not read the words to understand, for I have understood enough through the eyes of Hussein. Beneath these hidden stars, I declare my uncle a master to me. What is death to me but sweeter than honey? Warmer than the embrace of sunlight, and the testimony of the beauty of the night. My death is molded on the waves of sacrifice. My life, young, but an endless sea in its message. I heard a tremor in his voice and felt a shiver in his embrace. My uncle's sorrowful words have flooded in my heart's shore. His eyes as heavy as clouds, today waiting to spill away. He welcomed me back in his arms, and I remembered your warmth. But what embrace would bury my wounds but the swords? Timeless counted visions soar about in my mind. Images painted pictures of my legacy perfectly. But none could picture leaving my mother behind. What greater parting gift I could extend to her broken heart than the gift of youthful sacrifice? The far horizon of paradise stretches and merges with the redness. The angels flock and compete to call me by my father's name. In pride I march forth with armor once adorned by him. I am now ready to fill the many corners of his bleeding heart. Today, Hussein's name will not be the only one sung by angels. Hassan al-Mujtaba will be sung through me and my wounds. This honor that I have been seeking lies in the heart of death. I shall earn it despite my fragile frame and young age. I am the student of Hussein in the art of martyrdom, painting an eternal message with an endless sea of love. The tide of death comes waning before my eyes. As the moon of Karbala brings you to me tonight, I lay underneath the sky, returning the letter to you, O Father, written with love and sent with you the swords and spears. For whom am I to sleep eternally like this? For I am the son of the fourth of 5 purified forms, ready to lay my life for the stand of the 5th. I am the son of the purified, ready to sacrifice for the pure. Death, why do you kneel before me gracefully? For do I remind you of my father? Or does my father remind you of me? Hajia Sabah will join us momentarily, just with a short talk. If we could welcome her with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على خاتم الأنبياء والمرسلين سيد الأنبياء محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Assalamu alaikum, sisters and brothers. I am here today for a 2-minute clarification of my talk 2 days ago, because apparently, and I'm grateful for the people who brought this to my attention, there are 2 things that I need to clarify. One for the men and one for the women. The one for the men is in relation to something that I said about a wife and a husband. And I can understand that there is sort of a lapse in concentration when you can't see a speaker and you can only hear them. We women have a lot of experience with that. I talked about the lessons we have from Lady Zainab. And one of the most important lessons is the lesson of success. And there are 3 things that help us with success. The first one, anybody remembers? To get over the ego. What is one of the things that we could do is submission. Submission to Allah. First thing is to submit to Allah. The second thing is to stop the complaining. Be positive. Create that positive energy. And the third thing is to take action. And when I talked about the example of taking action, the action that needs to be taken is the one that reflects the responsibility that we have. Lady Zainab alayhi salam had a number of options, and we talked about that, but she took the option that reflected her responsibility as the carrier of the message of Imam Hussein, despite how difficult that message was. Incredibly difficult in a very emotional time. It was so easy to give up, and she continued. And the example I gave was the dichotomy between the Western approach to problem solving, and the examples given are if you don't like your job, you move away, find another one. If you are not happy with your partner, you go and find another one. That doesn't apply if we're looking for the Islamic approach. I'm going to repeat that again. As followers of Ahlul Bayt, we need to take on our responsibilities. So when we face a problem, we don't just walk away. We need to work it out. We need to sit down and talk about it. We need to find solutions. So I hope this point is clear now, and there are no misunderstandings about it. And the second thing, صلوا على محمد وعلى محمد. ثاني على حب الحسن والحسين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
والثالثة على حب الزهراء.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
My son is doing a count of salawat every night, and we seem like we're having, so far, the highest number a night was 49 salawat. So let's try tonight to make it higher, inshallah, for the love of Ahlul Bayt. The second thing is that many people were interested in what happened to my niece, Yasemin, and I forgot to clarify. I'm very sorry about that. Alhamdulillah, she's well, and she is now 9 years old, beautiful, gorgeous young girl, and she is the light of our lives. So thank you for asking about her. Jazakumullah khair. May Allah bless you, bless this gathering. And I just wanted to thank the young men and women in the background for this gathering. Incredible people. I am so honored and humbled to be part of this program. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Thank you, Sister Salah, for that clarification. We are now going to be joined by our resident poet from Potent Eloquence, Hajj Ibrahim al-Zubaydi. If we could welcome him with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
For the hastening of the return of our Imam, please recite the salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
3 times. 3 times the sun altered its rotation. The first, when Yusha prayed to the creator of creation. The second, for Ali, whose belief is salvation. And the third, on Ashur, the sun not wishing to rise that day. Yet at dawn 2 suns rose. One sun with rays of grief, and one sun whose voice brought relief. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. A voice of Muhammad, a voice of Akbar, a voice calling out to the camp of Hussein, reminding them that death may be near. That God is the only one we fear, and to the teachings of Rasulullah we adhere. A voice which brought the camp of Hussein to shed a tear. Once the companions fell, the dwellers of hell witnessed the Prophet rise again. Yet it was not the Prophet, it was the son of Hussein. Akbar approached his father. Hussein is from me, and I am from Hussein, echoed in Hussein's mind, as his eyes lay upon a man who is the resemblance of the mercy of mankind. With Akbar's request, Hussein had only one thing to say. Know how much the women of Ahlul Bayt love you. Go bid farewell to them before you go away. Akbar, you are my life, if only you knew. Akbar kisses the hands of his mother, embraces his auntie Zainab, bids farewell to the others, and then prepares to leave. Yet as he goes to step out, a hand grabs his sleeve. Akbar turns his head, he lays his eyes upon an unexpected sight. Holding on to his sleeve, his grandmother, the Lady of Light. Fatima looks at Akbar with teary eyes, eyes witnessed before by the skies. The same eyes she had upon the Prophet's death, the same tears she shed with the Prophet's last breath. Akbar looks down, her eyes he cannot bear to see. He looks to his sleeve and counts hands. There are now 3, Zainab, Sukaina, and his mother Layla. All stand stagnant, hearts beating in unison, tears meeting on the sand. The women cry to Akbar, stay with us, they plead. Now upon Akbar's shoulder rests a familiar hand. Hussein pulls Akbar towards him and looks to Layla, insisting Akbar must go. Awaiting him is a fate that they have all come to know. The women then say their final goodbye. Salamu alayka ya Rasulullah, Salamu alayka ya Akbar, they cry. Then Hussein says to Akbar, may God be with you, my son. Take this sword and shield and ride into the battlefield, but Akbar, come back to me. For I will not be able to see after this day if you do not rise in the sky and illuminate my way. Akbar turns towards the enemies, the hooves of his horse scraping on the sands. The horse begins to trot. Yet Hussein lingers behind him, concealing his sadness and tears. Yet Hussein lingers behind him, concealing his sadness and tears, yet in his eyes sorrow appears. Akbar stops as he hears a sound. The sound of feet being dragged across the ground, the sound of feathers being ripped from their wings, the sounds of the heavens and the earth weeping. So he turns around, his heart sees what the blind cannot. Rasulullah wiping the tears from Hussein. As he steps closer, he comes to realize it was not the Prophet but himself. Akbar was comforting Hussein. Akbar was there to ease the pain. Father, why do you follow me and cry? O Akbar, do you not know that the Prophet has said, Hussein is from me and I am from Hussein? Know that I gaze upon you when I yearn for my grandfather. Know that you are the closest in appearance and morals to the Messenger. Know that if you had a son like you, you would follow him too. Know that you are from me and I am from you. Akbar now rides towards the enemy. A cry from Akbar shakes the pillars of the heavens, a cry that pierces the ears of demons. I come from the lineage of the best of creation, my forefathers Muhammad and Ali, the leaders of the nation. I raise my sword, forged with divine relation. I defend the truth from Yazid's annexation. What happened after for the camp of Hussein, my heart trembles to say. That both suns rose at dawn, and now one sun shines bright that day. For a spear forged in hell, carried by a man whom the devil knew well, was thrown at Akbar's heart. Angels flapped their wings. Angels flapped their wings, attempting to create winds that may divert the spear from Akbar's chest. Yet the spear pierced the heart of the blessed. Yet the spear pierced the heart of Hussein. Yet the spear pierced the heart of humanity. But did Hussein know of the spear? For the son of Muqad, the Lord he did not fear, broke the handle, the wooden part of the spear. Hussein did not know until to Akbar's body he came near. Hussein sees Akbar lying down on the sand. Akbar tells Hussein how the Prophet is quenching his thirst, and Akbar reaches out to Hussein with one hand. Hussein whispers, "My son, my inspiration." At the scene, the tears of angels fall as rain, but Hussein asks Akbar, "Why do you embrace me with only one arm?" This action brings my heart harm, for upon the Prophet's death, I embraced him with both arms, and he embraced me as well. Why then do you embrace me with only one arm? Akbar then moved his hand, and Hussein sees the spear tip. The spear tip that pierced Akbar's heart, yet the heart continues to beat. Hussein looks to Najaf at this moment. Ya Haydar al-Karrar, your strength is more potent. Hussein places his hand over the spear tip, feeling the pulse of Akbar's heart. With every pulse, Hussein's soul being ripped apart, and as he sends his final salams to Akbar, his heart begins to burn. To him we belong, and to him we return. Hussein felt Haydar's strength in his arm as he began to pull out the spear tip, pulling out the soul of Akbar while heavenly blood drips. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أحسنت أحسنت.
أحسنت حج إبراهيم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فلولا إذا بلغت الحلقوم وأنتم حينئذ تنظرون ونحن أقرب إليه منكم ولكن لا تبصرون فلولا إن كنتم غير مدينين ترجعونها إن كنتم صادقين. Then why do you not intervene when the soul of the dying man reaches the throat, and you are at that moment looking on, and we are nearer onto him than you, but you do not see? Why then, if you are not independent on us, do you not force the soul back if you are truthful? Sadaq Allah al-Ali al-Azim. We are grateful to be joined by our esteemed speaker, Sayyid Ahmed al-Hakim, for our main talk entitled Death. Please welcome him with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد والثناء لله رب العالمين. ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وعظيمنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا بالقاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. آمين يا رب العالمين. Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I can see there's a lot of tired faces. Obviously we're a bit behind schedule, so I want to keep it nice and short. And obviously the MC didn't get the memo. I'm not talking about death, actually. I'm talking about something else. But that was probably my fault because I just changed it without telling anyone. What I will be talking about is I'm actually going to be telling you a story. It's a hadith narrated to us by Imam Rida alayhi salam. Through this story, it will summarize basically everything that I have talked about in the previous nights in 5 lessons, inshallah. So, in the book Uyun Akhbar al-Rida, compiled by Shaykh al-Saduq, may Allah be pleased with him, Imam al-Rida alayhi salam tells us that once upon a time there was a prophet. There was a prophet that it's unnamed who the prophet is, but nonetheless there was a prophet, and it was revealed unto him by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to do 5 things for this day. 5 things. I need you guys to actually really pay attention because this story is the crux of my talk, and if you miss it, you miss the whole talk, okay? And I need you guys to help me because I have no notes today. So I need some feedback and I've got a bad memory. So 5 things. The first thing he told them to do was to, the first thing you see, swallow it. The first thing you see, swallow it. The second thing he told them to do was the second thing you see, bury it. Put it under the ground. The third thing you see, accept it or embrace it or welcome it. The fourth thing, do not disappoint it. And the 5th thing, run away from it, flee from it. Okay? Those 5 things. So, he said, okay, I'll do as you've asked me to. He thought it was a bit weird, but nonetheless, he opened the door and started his day. He opened the door, the first thing he saw was from far away a mountain. The big mountain of the village. Now he said, the first thing I have to do is what? Swallow it. So he's thinking to himself, how in the world am I going to swallow a mountain? But then he thought, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would never ask me to do something that I'm not capable of. And this is the first lesson, brothers and sisters. This is not actually from the lessons of the hadith, but for me, this was the first lesson. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never asks us to do something that we're not capable of. I'll just give one example because I don't have time to dwell on things. But one example is Salat al-Fajr. How many times do we give ourselves excuses to not wake up for Fajr? Some say, my body clock, I don't have the capability, I put 10 alarms. But we still don't wake up. I just can't do it. And we don't feel bad about it. I try, but I just can't do it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not tell you Salat al-Fajr is wajib, and you have to do it unless He knows every single one of you is capable. Or fasting. Yes, there is exemptions from fasting. For example, if you're sick, if, for example, you're traveling. But not, for example, if you have exams or a soccer competition. We are capable of doing it. And believe me, if you have a soccer competition, me and Muhammad Taha, my best friend, have experience with this. You fast and you play, you'll have another player with you, believe me. So, he saw the mountain. Now, what happens when you see a mountain from far away? It's very small. In fact, you've seen people take, selfies or pictures, and they have the moon, they put their hands like this, and they're holding the moon between their fingers. Or the Eiffel Tower, or the Leaning Tower of Pizza, the pyramids, balancing it on their heads, whatever. It's small. Now what happened was, as the Prophet was moving towards the mountain, it wasn't expanding. When you walk towards something that's far away, slowly it gets bigger. But it wasn't getting bigger. By the time he got to the mountain, It was the same size that he had initially seen it. He says, subhanallah. He picks up that mountain, he puts it in his mouth, eats it, swallows it, and the narration says, and it was delicious. So he said, okay. He started moving along. Then he came to the second thing, which was a golden pot. Now what was the second thing that he had to do? Bury it. Ahsantu. So he saw the golden pot, made a hole in the ground, buried it, made sure that there was absolutely nothing left. You could not see any parts of the pot left. He looked at it from every angle. He buried it, and then he started walking along. For some reason, he decided to look back. He looked back, and he saw that the handle of the pot was showing. He said, but I'm pretty sure I buried the whole thing. Anyway, Allah has asked me to bury it. I did it, and I moved along, so I'm not going to go back. I'm going to leave it as it is. He kept going. Then he saw a falcon and a bird. The falcon was chasing the bird, trying to eat it. All of a sudden, the bird comes towards him, and what he does is he remembers the third thing. What was it? Embrace or accept or welcome it. So he opens up his sleeve, you know, like the clothes that they were wearing, they had big sleeves. Some of the companions of the Prophet, for example, used to keep cats in their sleeves. Right? So a bird comes and he puts it in his sleeve. So that was the third. He welcomed it or embraced it. The fourth thing, what was he meant to do?
Don't disappoint.
Don't disappoint. Ahsan. So the falcon comes along, and we know that the prophets and the Imam, alayhim salam, some of them were given the gift of being able to speak to animals, converse with animals. So the falcon says to him, look, I've been chasing that bird for days. And I haven't caught it. Now it's in your sleeve. He just said that. So he remembered not to disappoint the fourth thing. So he gives a bit of the bird, either the wing or maybe part of its leg, something like that. Not the whole thing, but a part of it to the falcon. And the falcon was happy, had its meals and flew away. And he started walking back home. He's like, there's one more thing. And all of a sudden he just sees a rotten piece of meat on the side of the road. And what's he supposed to do? Run away. He didn't look at it, smell it, check its expiry, see if he can maybe salvage some part of it. He ran away from it. He didn't walk away casually, ran away until he got home. He's like, okay, I've done my job for today. I have no idea what that was about, but alhamdulillah, I achieved it. He went to sleep, and then he had a dream. And Allah inspired a man to come into his dream and say to him, O Prophet, do you want to understand the moral or the philosophy behind all these 5 actions? He says, yes, I do, because I don't understand it. So the man said, okay. The first thing, what was it? The mountain, swallow it. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
So he said, I swallowed the mountain. He said, okay, what that mountain represents, ahsanti, anger. Anger. So what he did, that mountain, he swallowed it and it was delicious. How does this represent anger? He said, when a situation happens that angers you, your perception of that event and your anger in your head is magnified. He saw the mountain was very small. In his head, he thought that this mountain was big in reality. But as he came closer, he saw that it wasn't. It was the same size. So he was able to get to the mountain and swallow it. What does this mean? It means that if something happens, brothers and sisters, that gets you angry, you need to understand the reality of what that thing is that got you angry. And is it worth being angry? I'll give you one example, which is relevant because it happened about 2 or 3 days ago here with me. We had some amazing falafel. I believe one of the aunties had sponsored it or donated amazing falafels. And I was about halfway through and I was loving it. Okay? As I was speaking to one of the brothers, while I'm eating, I'm speaking to him, my head is turned, my falafel is in my left hand. One of the brothers comes along with a bottle filled with amber, and he starts saying amber, and starts putting it on the falafel. It's a special type of sauce. It's yellow. It's very Iraqi, and I hate it. I can't stand it. So he puts the amber, and I look at him and I say, "Please stop." And he smiles and goes, amber. And I went furious. I was so angry. And I'm trying to contain myself. I'm like, "Bro, please stop. I hate amber." And I went on about it for about 5 minutes, about how he ruined my falafel. And I was trying to laugh it off, but deep down, I know we're having a laugh, but this is a serious example, and I want you guys to reflect on your lives. Deep down, I was really like, I really wish you didn't put that. And it was just on one layer. I ate it. It wasn't too bad. I remember it a lot worse. And then I had the rest of the falafel, which was delicious, like that mountain. And then, when I got back home, I remembered what I was going to be talking about. And I remembered how I magnified the situation so much that not only did I make one of my brothers feel bad, I'm not pointing to him by the way, one of the brothers feel bad, but also probably embarrassed him in front of other people. And in his mind, he thought he was doing a good thing. I magnified the situation. Whether you have a scratch on your iPhone, whether you have, and that's the most annoying thing, isn't it, when you forget your first phone and then there's a scratch on it. But I got one advice from a wise person once, and they said, if you want to know if it's worth something getting angry over, in a year's time, will you remember and still get angry about it? Then you'll know if it's worth getting angry, because in the akhirah, it definitely won't matter. The only time it's worth getting angry is when your akhirah is affected, brothers and sisters. And I'll give you a hadith. One of my teachers, my YouTube teachers, he used to explain what the ayah وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ means. It doesn't mean just suppress your anger, it means swallow your anger. So a way to explain this is when you eat an apple. If I put it in my mouth and then I swallow it, there's no trace of the apple anymore. If somebody comes and says, "Did you eat an apple?" and I say no, there's no way that they can prove that I ate the apple. But if I keep it in my mouth, like this, in my cheeks, they're going to know that I have had taken a bite from an apple. Likewise with anger. If we want to swallow our anger, we need to make sure there's no trace of it on our face. Had I not said anything, but my facial expression had showed that I was really upset with that person, that's not swallowing your anger, brothers and sisters. Swallowing your anger is when you are content with the situation and you understand the realities that it doesn't matter. That's swallowing anger. And with this ayah, we have a hadith about Imam Ali ibn al-Hussein alayhi salam. Once he had a servant, and she came and she was pouring him tea. And she poured some, but accidentally it went on his lap. Hot chai on his lap. And he's the Imam. Now he looked up at her, and straight away, look how he teaches his servants. Look at the adab. Straight away she says an ayah from the Quran. She says, وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ. This ayah is speaking about the people that will be entering Jannah. وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ. They are the ones that swallow their anger. She says that straight away. So Imam Sajjad alayhi salam says, I'm not angry with you. Then she continues the ayah. The next line is what? وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ. And they forgive the people. Imam Sajjad says, you're forgiven. Then she continues the ayah. وَاللَّهُ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. And Allah loves the doers of good. Imam Sajjad says, you are no longer my servant, I have freed you. This is swallowing your anger. Now the second thing, going back to this story, the second thing was what?
Burying the pot.
The golden pot, burying the pot. Okay, good. So he said, when you buried the pot, what does this represent? This represents your good deeds. I'm going to quickly go to the hadith because I don't have much time. Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam in Wasa'il al-Shia says, preserving your deed is harder than doing the deed. So one of his companions says, what do you mean by preserving the deed? He says, I'll give you an example. Somebody does something for the sake of Allah. For example, he gives charity. Okay? He gives charity. Maybe some of you have done this, put it in the box or donated some money for the food. You do it for the sake of Allah. You don't tell anyone. This is done as a charity in private. And we know from the Quran, the charity given in private is worth a lot. Then Imam Baqir says, if that person tells one other person what he has done, that deed changes from a deed done in private into a deed done in public. And the reward is less. Allah says, give in public, it's good, but give in private, it's better. So you've lost some of the deeds, or the reward. Then Imam al-Baqir says, you tell one more person, what does that become? It has changed from a deed done in public into something done for showing off. And doing something for the sake of showing off is no longer a good deed. In fact, it's a sin. So Imam al-Baqir says, it's much harder to keep your deed, preserve it, keep that reward that you initially done, than doing the good deed. So with our deeds, brothers and sisters, we should bury it. Keep it between you and Allah only. Don't do it for the sake of other people. Why is it better to do it in private? Because as soon as you start telling people, Shaitan comes and says, look, he just praised you. You're really good. And we spoke about this yesterday in the hadith of Imam Ali alayhi salam, so I don't want to go into it. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Now the important thing, brothers and sisters, is whatever you desire you will get. Allah says, if you desire the dunya, you will get the dunya. If you desire the akhirah, you will get the akhirah. So with your deeds, you do it for the sake of Allah, Allah will give you the reward. If you do it for the sake of showing off in the dunya, you will also be popular and people will know you. You give money over here, you make sure everyone sees you put your hand into that slot. MashaAllah, look how much money, put the yellow one. Now, you'll get that popularity, you'll get some of it. Not everyone will see, some will see. In the dunya you'll get, in the akhirah you'll get everything if you do it for the sake of Allah. So, the important thing from that story is once he buried the pot, when he walked away, what happened? He looked back and there was some showing, wasn't it? The man tells the Prophet, the wisdom behind this is when you do a good deed for the sake of Allah and you cover it, Allah will expose that deed and you will be honored by it by the people. It's not for us to tell people how good we are. If Allah sees it necessary, He will show how good you are. Now we have to move on. The next thing was welcome the bird. He says this is good advice. When good advice comes to you, brothers and sisters, accept it. Accept it. Don't reject it. You know, sometimes it's good when advice comes to you, just listen. Just listen. And believe me, I've been getting emails and SMSs about the things I'm doing wrong, the things I'm doing right. And also there's an etiquette on how to do it. Not the first thing I come off this table and you say, well done, but that hadith was wrong, your Arabic is this, there's an etiquette as well. One of the aunties, actually, I made a mistake. When I was talking about the life of Hamza alayhi salam in a lecture a while ago, I made a mistake. I said something that was wrong. It was narrated from actually the enemies of the Ahlul Bayt, not from the hadiths of Ahlul Bayt. I said something wrong. Now, this auntie, she wanted to tell me that I'm wrong, but she didn't want to offend me. So what did she do? She thought and thought. She ended up calling my mum and saying, how do I tell Ahmed this? You know, I just have a different perspective. I've got a YouTube video. I want him to see it. It's a lecture by one of the scholars. Maybe he'll, see something different from what he said. She didn't just say he's wrong and I need to tell him. Just very humble. My mom said, the best thing to do is email me this lecture, this YouTube video, and CC Ahmed. So she did that. I watched the video and I knew exactly what she was trying to do by the end of it. But the way she did it, she didn't even need to talk to me. And I appreciated that so much. And I still haven't said thank you. And the auntie's not here, but inshallah she'll get a chance to see this video, because I really appreciate the way that you approach people when you have made a mistake. It's critical, brothers and sisters. And when it comes to you, just listen. Don't straight away let your ego come out and think about who is telling you. You know, for example, one of the brothers might come up to him, even my little nephew, Mustafa, if he comes and tells me, you know, Ahmed, I didn't like this story that you told. I can straight away say, Ya Mustafa, you're counting salawat and I'm here doing lectures. You want to tell me what's right and what's wrong? No, listen. You have to appeal to the youth as well, isn't it? So that was the third thing, yes? The fourth thing was? Don't disappoint, the falcon. What that falcon is when somebody approaches you with a need, don't disappoint them. If somebody asks you for something, don't disappoint them. When you do something after someone has come and asked you, if you do something for them, don't think it's something generous and you're doing them a favor. Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam in Nahj al-Balagha, they asked him, what's generosity? He said, generosity is when before somebody asks you, you give it to them. If you wait until somebody asks you, Amir al-Mu'minin says, that's not generosity. That's to avoid disappointment and embarrassment. Disappointing them, embarrassing them, and more importantly, embarrassing yourself. If you say no, you're going to be the stingy person in front of the eyes of the people, isn't it? So if somebody comes, and believe me, it takes up a lot of courage for somebody to come and ask you for something. And I've noticed this actually this Muharam. I don't know, my mum is still here. She comes, I use you always as an example. She comes, she's going like this, ala aini. She wants to come every night, but it's a far distance for me. So every night, I ask her, do you have a lift or should I come? Now my mum doesn't want to ask me and tell me I don't have a lift. Just come and pick me up. She doesn't want to. She feels like she's putting a burden on me, isn't it, Mum? So I come to understand, and eventually she told me, after I had picked her up several times, she said, I'd rather not come than go and ask people for a lift. Now if I ask her, or if she, for example, comes and tells me, Ahmed, I need a lift, and I go take her, I shouldn't be thinking I'm doing something generous. It's to avoid embarrassment. It's to avoid disappointment. But if I go, without even her asking, pick her up, believe me, the reward with Allah, that's when it's amplified. Forgive me, Mum. I love you. ثاني على حب الزهراء.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
I think that's it for disappointment. Okay, so we'll skip to the last one, should we? Oh, one more thing, I just remembered. With disappointment as well, if somebody, one of the signs of a hypocrite is if you make a promise, you break it. And if you have a trust with them, you break that trust. Brother Hashim did a great lecture on the hypocrisy of Muawiyah. He did a great lecture. And everything was revolving around breaking trusts and breaking promises. I just want to share one hadith before I move on. Imam as-Sadiq, and this is how important it is to when you promise something, you don't break that promise. He said, even if the killer of Ali ibn Abi Talib, the one who struck him with his sword, were to have a trust with me, or were to come to me for some advice and I promised him I would give him advice, then I must honor that trust. Even the killer of Imam Ali. With us, no, this guy doesn't deserve it. Or, no, I'll be there, I'll do that, inshallah. What does our inshallah mean these days? It means inshallah not. In any case, I need to move on. The fifth one is the rotten meat, which he ran away from. Now this one's obviously an easy one. Does anyone want to tell me what this represents? backbiting. Ahsant, mashallah. You should be narrating hadith. Backbiting. And I'm just going to finish off with 2 narrations about backbiting. The first is from Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam in Nahj al-Balagha. Now notice the Prophet, when he saw the meat, what did he do? He didn't hang around to see what it was about. He didn't inspect, check it out, take a bite. No, he fled. He ran away. Now Amir al-Mu'mineen, look how he talks about backbiting. This is probably my favorite servant in Nahj al-Balagha. He says, if you are free from sin, meaning if you are ma'soom, then you should busy yourself with thanking Allah for the fact that you are not sinning. And don't concern yourself with others and their sins. You should be so busy thanking Allah that you're not a sinner, that you're not concerned with others. Then he says, how about the one that backbites about another person's sin? Does he not remember the big sins that he has done in compared to that brother's sin? Does he not remember? The only reason you have the option to backbite now is because Allah protected you for not exposing that sin. And then he says, even if you don't have a bigger sin than that, you'll have a similar sin. But Allah has protected you. And even if you don't have a bigger sin, you have a smaller sin, you can still be punished for that smaller sin. And Allah has protected you from that. But furthermore, even if you don't have that smaller sin, the fact that you're backbiting about him is a big sin. Meaning there's no option for you. You have no option to backbite. He says, you should be thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for protecting the people from knowing about your sins, rather than backbiting about other people. This is Amir al-Mu'mineen, and this is what we should be striving for when it comes to backbiting, brothers and sisters. The second narration that I want to, that's the severity of backbiting, and we've heard a lot about it. But the other thing I want to talk about backbiting is all of us, at one stage in our lives, have suffered from backbiting. Whether it be slander, backbiting, teasing, bullying, in the playground, at high school, university, workplace, the masjid, the community, Facebook, we've all been backbitten or bullied. How do we deal with this? Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam in Amali al-Suduq gives us some advice. What does he say? Al-Qama, one of the companions of Imam al-Sadiq, comes to him and he says, the people are backbiting us. They're talking about me and I can't handle it. It hurts. It hurts. How do I deal with it? He says, oh Al-Qama, you think that this is something unusual just for you? You think because you have committed all these good deeds or done all these good deeds and only small bad deeds that you're not worthy of being backbitten? What about the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Didn't they say about Nabi Yusuf that he had approached a lady and tried to assault her? Didn't they say about Nabi Dawood that he desired women in a haram way? Didn't they say, for example, that all the prophets were magicians? Didn't they say that Rasulullah was a madman? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. They said in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had to reveal an ayah that said, and your companion is not a madman. Notice that it wasn't the mushrikeen, it wasn't, for example, the Jews or the Christians. He had to reveal an ayah to say, your companion is not a madman. Because it was the companions that started doubting. There's certain companions that started doubting his prophethood. On the tree of Hudaybiyah, one says, what's this guy doing? Is he even a prophet? And he's meant to be this close. Then it says, and didn't they say about the Prophet that he desired the wife of his stepson, Zayd bin Haritha, and that he was not satisfied until he made his stepson divorce so he could have her for himself? They said this about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Didn't they say about Rasulullah that when it came to Imam Ali, that he was speaking from his desires? until Allah revealed the ayah that Hashim said, and he does not speak from his desires. Everything is but a revelation revealed. He speaks only through the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then Imam Sadiq says, and even more who suffered than the prophets was the successors of the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Didn't they say about Imam Ali, for example, that he desired the dunya? In Nahj al-Balagha Sermon 5, he had to come out on the pulpit and say, if I desire to claim back what is mine, they're going to call me greedy. If I stay quiet, they're going to say I'm afraid of death. And what a shame that they say, after all I've been through, that the son of Abu Talib is afraid of death. Imam Ali afraid of death. Subhanallah. Further than that, didn't they say that while he was number 3 in the orders of the caliphs, that he was the man causing all the fitna? They say it's the time of fitna, and all the blood of the Muslims is on his hand. Don't they say this about him? What else do they say? This one probably hurts the most. Don't they say that he was not happy enough with Sayyidah Fatima alayhi salam, that he had to go to the daughter of Abu Jahl? And Imam Ali didn't find anyone except the daughter of Abu Jahl. And you know, some might say, oh, why are you talking about this? This is sectarian. Brothers and sisters, you go to the books of some of our brothers and sisters in faith, and you go find that Imam Ali desired the wife of Abu Jahl, and this made Fatima angry. So much so that the Prophet, notice the Prophet didn't go into Imam Ali and say, listen, I don't think this is a good idea. He went onto the pulpit and he said, this man Ali, he says it's not enough for him Fatima, and he wants to do the daughter of Abu Jahl, and she's angry and upset at that, and whoever is angry and upset with, Fatima is angry and upset with, I'm angry and upset with, and whoever I'm angry and upset with, Allah is angry and upset with. This is obviously a political move to save one of the particular companions of the Prophet whom Fatima died angry with. Look at what they make up about the successors of the Prophet. Anyway, I don't want to turn this into a political discussion, but everyone was a victim of backbiting, even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imam al-Sadiq goes on to say, don't they say about Allah he's the third of the 3? Don't they say about Allah he has a shin and a foot and a medrishino? Don't they say that Allah has an image? Don't they say that everything is Allah and Allah is everything? Then Imam al-Sadiq says, don't think that because you are in this position, no one's going to backbite about you. The advice he gave is seek consolation, seek confidence that this was happening to the best of people, and be patient. Don't react. Don't fight back. If they did this about Rasulullah, definitely they're going to do this about you. And they say backbiting, you know, it's similar to backstabbing, isn't it? Done behind the back. And no one suffered more of a stab in the back than Hussein bin Ali alayhi salam by the people of Kufa. Isn't it? What did they do? 18,000 letters they sent. 18,000 letters they sent to Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And they said, we pledge allegiance to you, and we are going to fight against tyranny. And then they turned their back. Now, in his final sermon to the people of Kufa, Imam Hussein said the following. Now, I've adapted it a bit to make it flow a bit more, and added a bit of Imam al-Sajjad's sermon in there. So I'm just going to end with this, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. O people of Kufa, this is Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam talking to the people of Kufa. O people of Kufa, may you be ruined and afflicted. May there be bitterness in your throats and your hearts be constricted. You invited us to go, to guide and assist. We hasten to do so, but now you resist. Those swords you unsheathe, and now point at us are the very swords we gave you in confidence and trust. You now kindle a fire against us, the same one which we lit, against your enemy and ours. Now your allegiance has split. You sided with your enemies and proceeded to fight your friends. When they don't act with justice, nor do you expect any from them. 100 woes upon you for your treachery and betrayal. When did we act wrong with you, or our service we fail? May you be ruined, O ones who abandoned the Quran and the progeny with Shaitan in tandem. You have made Satan your master, and he has taken you as partners. He has laid eggs in your heart, taking you from light to darkness. He sees through your eyes and speaks with your tongues. He has adorned your evil deeds and the actions you have done. Treachery and deceit is a custom of your fathers. Now you pay allegiance to the illegitimate son of an illegitimate father. Who has placed me in between two difficult stations, between unsheathing the swords or humiliation and abasement. And far be it that we accept humiliation. Hey heart min al-dhillah, the slogan of our nation. I was taught by the Prophet on his sacred laps, which have nursed us to grow strong and not fall into Satan's traps, to abhor disgrace and never bow down to oppression, to submit to Allah completely in harmonic progression. You have become the pillars of evil and soldiers of Iblis, and stand on thrones above us while our children weep. You force us to sit on the floor, slap our children with your palm, while we are the foundation of the religion of Islam. That throne you sit on and claim to have power would have no basis without the wilayah, without the Prophet or my father Ali, without my brother Hassan, and now without me. And from me descends the remains of the pure tree. With my martyrdom comes patience with my son Ali. If we defeat our enemies, we will claim our victory. But should we be defeated, death shall overcome me. But that will only happen once, so do not rejoice, for one day you'll end up like this, without any choice. For death clings onto necks, then when its grip relents, it clings onto others before they can repent. Allah's wrath fell upon the Jews when they attributed to him a son, and for the Christians saying Allah is three and not only one. For the Magians it descended for worshipping fire, moon and sun. But what for this ummah, why will it be shunned? The wrath of Allah will descend because of its actions to the progeny of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings upon he. They killed his grandson, and they did not even flinch. And soon I meet my Lord, with my blood I will be drenched. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Thank you, Sayyid Ahmed, for that excellent talk. May Allah help us to incorporate those noble traits within our daily lives. Now, Ashura and Muharam are all about sacrifices, and Sayyid Ahmed has fought through injury and hardships through these days, but despite all that has trotted on like a trooper and inspired us with his talks. So let us give him a loud salawat for his tireless efforts.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
We will conclude, as we always do, with ziyarat of our beloved Imam, read by Brother Hashim Fakhruddin. We will recommence tomorrow evening, inshaAllah, with Salat and Maghrib at 8 o'clock. Let's join Brother Hashim. Let us attend to the Qibla and Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أزور سيدي ومولاي ومعتمدي ورجاي ذخري وذخيرتي أبا عبد الله الحسين عليه السلام. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
السلام عليك يا وارث آدم صفوة الله. السلام عليك يا وارث نوح نبي الله. السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله. السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كليم الله. السلام عليك يا وارث عيسى روح الله. السلام عليك يا وارث محمد حبيب الله. السلام عليك يا وارث أمير المؤمنين عليه السلام. السلام عليك يا ابن محمد المصطفى. السلام عليك يا ابن علي المرتضى. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء. السلام عليك يا ابن خديجة الكبرى. السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوثر الموتور. أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وآتيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونهيت عن المنكر وأطعت الله ورسوله حتى أتاك اليقين. فلعن الله أمة قتلتك ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأصلاب الشامخة والأرحام المطهرة، لم تنجسك الجاهلية بأنجاسها ولم تلبسك من مدلهمات ثيابها. وأشهد أنك من دعائم الدين وأركان المؤمنين. وأشهد أنك الإمام البر التقي الرضي الزكي الهادي المهدي. وأشهد أن الأئمة من ولدك كلمة التقوى وأعلام الهدى والعروة الوثقى والحجة على أهل الدنيا. وأشهد الله وملائكته وأنبياءه ورسله إني بكم مؤمن وبإيابكم موقن بشرائع ديني وخواتيم عملي، وقلبي لقلبكم سلم وأمري لأمركم متبع. صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وعلى أجسادكم وعلى أجسامكم وعلى شاهدكم وعلى غائبكم وعلى ظاهركم وعلى باطنكم. بأبي أنت وأمي يا ابن رسول الله، بأبي أنت وأمي يا أبا عبد الله. لقد عظمت الرزية وجلت المصيبة بك علينا وعلى جميع أهل السماوات والأرض. فلعن الله أمة أسرجت وألجمت وتهيأت لقتالك يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله. قصدت حرمك وأتيت إلى مشهدك، أسأل الله بالشأن الذي لك عنده وبحل الذي لك لديه أن يصلي على محمد وآل محمد، وأن يجعلني معكم في الدنيا والآخرة. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.